You started YouTube and started with whatever camera you had, maybe with an iPhone or a GoPro, and you want to buy a brand new camera, a dedicated camera for YouTube for your starter kit as a beginner. In your research, there were most likely a few cameras that consistently come up, like the Canon M50 Mark II, the Sony ZV-1, the Sony ZV-E10, and the new Nikon Z30, just to name a few. Which camera do you get? Which is the best 4K camera for YouTube for beginners? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the Elevate Project. I'm Ryan, and we are going to discuss purchasing a new camera for beginners, specifically for YouTube. To start your YouTube journey, before we begin, let's define a beginner or starter camera for YouTube. A beginner is someone that has little to no knowledge or experience with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera with the primary intent to shoot video for YouTube. I personally started shooting YouTube videos with my iPhone, this iPhone 12 Pro. To be clear, if you are starting with an iPhone or your cell phone, you do not have to upgrade to a dedicated camera for YouTube right away. Of course, it will depend on your channel and the content you create. For example, if you are a professional videographer or photographer and you already have a camera that is more than capable to start shooting that really high quality video, then yes, go for it. If you don't have a great camera already and you think you have to buy a new camera to be successful on YouTube, you really don't. Scrolling through YouTube, there are dedicated channels that shoot on an iPhone, and there are channels that are using webcams. So don't let a dedicated camera for YouTube stop you from creating content. So you are either ready to take the next step and you are committed and dedicated to start your journey on YouTube and take it a lot more seriously, and you've been researching a new camera that will be easy to learn and have a great quality picture out of the camera to make it easy to edit, in post, and upload to YouTube. If you are like me and search Google, YouTube, and all the search engines, you may have come across a few different cameras. Looking at cameras that are under $1,000 US, these cameras are few of the most popular for YouTube creators because most, if not all, are considered entry-level cameras, which is a good thing. They are powerful and fully capable and give you an easier learning curve to learn versus their higher-end models. First is the Canon M50 Mark II. With a 15 to 45 millimeter kit lens, is around $699. It's 24.1 megapixel. It's an APS-C sensor with interchangeable lenses. This is great because the sensor is a crop sensor, which is a smaller sensor versus full-frame cameras. And when you want to get different lenses, it will be much cheaper. The M50 Mark II is great for 1080 footage, giving you recording options from 24 frames per second to 60 frames per second. It is fully capable of 4K at 24 frames per second, but it crops the image and it will zoom in on your shot just a little bit. Another popular camera is the Sony ZV-1, which has a fixed 24 to 70 millimeter zoom lens, so you can't change or upgrade the lens, which is around $748. It is also an APS-C crop sensor. It's 20.1 megapixels and can record 1080p from 24 frames per second to 60 frames per second, and 4K from 24 frames per second to 30 frames per second with no crop. This is very popular for vlogging and a great camera that is even being used by YouTubers that have over 500,000 subscribers and more. The next camera on my list is the Sony ZV-E10 with a 16 to 50 millimeter lens, which is around $798 and cheaper without the kit lens. So this does have the option of interchangeable lenses versus the Sony ZV-1, and usually is the camera that people will compare. Now, this Sony has 24.2 megapixels, It records 1080p to 24 frames per second to 120 frames per second, and also 4K with 24 to 30 frames per second with no crop. The last camera I will talk about under $1,000 is the new Nikon Z30 with 16 to 50 millimeter lens for around $846. It's the newest on the list. Like the others, it is an APS-C crop sensor. It's 20 megapixels. It's interchangeable lenses. It is capable of 1080p, 24 to 120 frames per second, and also can record in 4K from 24 frames per second to 30 frames per second, also with no crop. I haven't personally tried this camera, and from what I have seen, has great reviews. Most of the reviews I saw, though, have been from YouTubers that did receive the Nikon Z30 for free to try out. Not a bad thing because it will clearly point out the good things, and this camera has a lot of good things to say with picture quality, ease of use, and more. When it comes to Nikon and crop sensor lenses, I feel they're limited in comparison to Sony and Canon, in my opinion. Okay. There are some of you that will be shopping right off the bat for full-frame cameras, which are larger than the APS-C sub-$1,000 cameras we went over. These are higher-end cameras that are over $1,000. You probably might have seen this in your search, like the Sony a7 III with a 28mm to 70mm lens, which is running around $2,198. The cool thing is, for that particular camera, it is a little bit older, so you can find that camera for a really good price used. Another camera is the Sony a7C with a 28 to 60mm lens, is roughly around $2,098. The other camera that is really sought after and very popular is the Sony a7 IV with a 28 to 70mm lens for around $2,698. An honorable mention is the Sony FX30 that is not full frame. It's actually an APS-C sensor, which is over $1,000 just for the body, around $1,798. Going back to our definition of a beginner is someone that has no or limited experience with DSLR and mirrorless cameras with the intent to shoot video for YouTube. So my focus is on cameras that are easy to use, easy to learn, and has great picture straight out of the camera to reduce any or little color grading to easily edit and upload your content. So even though there are a lot of beginners that will jump to the higher price cameras over $1,000 to full frame, they are amazing hybrid cameras that will be great for photography, for various content you can integrate into video and elevate your YouTube channel, which will have a higher learning curve in comparison to the sub $1,000 cameras. I want to focus on the popular sub $1,000 cameras and share the camera I chose. To be clear, regardless if you choose any of the popular cameras by Canon, Sony, and Nikon that I mentioned, they are all great to start elevating your video for YouTube. So before I share the camera I chose, let's go over what I think are must-haves in a beginner camera for YouTube. Must-haves number 1, should have 4K with limited or no crop. 2, have the ability for interchangeable lenses. 3, easy to use. And 4, great picture quality out of the camera. Now, if you found value so far, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Watch till the end to see the second camera I purchased and why. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the cameras I mentioned. Like I said, I personally chose the Sony ZV-E10. It hits all the must-haves: 4K, interchangeable lenses, it's easy to use, it's a quick learning curve, and great picture quality out of the camera with the standard profile. I have purchased multiple lenses and have been super happy with the Sony ZV-E10 for YouTube. It is more video-centric, which I like, and a truly capable content creator camera. For a lot of my videos before I got into color grading and creating my YouTube look, I used the standard picture profile and the kit lens and was happy with the picture quality that I felt elevated my video quality compared to my iPhone. I have started to get more into photography and learning the other half of this camera that I just didn't utilize. The pictures I have taken totally hasn't disappointed me after getting to learn some basics. If you are on the fence and the Sony ZV-E10 is on your list, you won't be disappointed. If you are still watching, type the word BEST in the chat. I've been using the Sony ZV-E10 for almost a year, and I wanted to purchase a second camera for a second angle or top-down camera and play with multicam. I originally had two options in my head. First option was to get another Sony ZV-E10 and use the APS-C lens I already purchased. Makes it really easy for color matching. The second is to jump into a full-frame hybrid camera and have a new A-roll camera and a better camera for photos, and have my Sony ZV-E10 as my B-roll or second angle or top-down camera. And I was thinking about the Sony a7C or the Sony a7 IV. The problem for me is that you don't just upgrade the camera body. Just to start, you need to upgrade the lenses, which can cost even more than the body itself. So then the Sony FX30 came out. Video-centric, offering 10-bit 4.2.2, 4K up to 120 frames per second, and is very similar to the Sony FX3 full-frame camera, except the FX30 is APS-C crop sensor. And after some research and where I wanted to move forward with my own YouTube journey, I jumped on it and filming with the Sony FX30 right now as my new A-roll camera. I am loving it so far and will use it for the next 90 days before I actually make a video on what I like and don't like, and if it still fits my main camera purpose. If you found value in this video, you know what to do. It really supports the channel. And if you like the content like this one, watch these videos over here. Be safe, stay awesome, and I'll catch you in the next one.